it's Katerina, and today we're going to just go through a quick walkthrough of a recipe for mackerel patties. Now, I have mentioned that I was going to add more seafood into my diet. I was looking for other ways to get like the omega-3 fatty acids, and just in general, seafood is good for you. So I wanted to just kind of give myself a little bit of variety. I'm not a huge fan of chicken. I absolutely love beef and lamb, but I have just been adding more seafood in. That was kind of my goal after I, hit a certain point in the carnivore diet. I do a lot of salmon. I like salmon a lot. I have done some trout and some scallops and even shrimp. But I remembered many years ago, before I became a vegetarian, then turned whole food plant-based vegan, I wasn't always a vegetarian or a vegan. I wasn't growing up. I wasn't in the earlier years of my life. I didn't start doing that until it was before my youngest was born, and he's 12. I started doing kind of being a vegetarian with my daughter, who at the time was still in school, and she wanted to become a vegetarian. And so that's kind of when we started. But then over, time, I eventually progressed into more of a stricter vegetarian, then turned into a vegan, and then a whole food plant-based vegan. But before that, I used to eat meat. I just really don't remember it, and I don't know that I've ever really just been a giant fan of a lot of stuff, but I do remember one thing that I used to like a lot growing up, and that was mackerel patties. Now, this time of year is very hard for me. I lost my mother, and so that makes it hard as it is, but also, we're coming into the holidays, and it's all about family and spending time with your family, and she was just such a force. She really just was just crazy about the holidays, and she's the one that instilled the love of decorating and just going all out for holidays, especially Halloween and Christmas. So this is, I just been feeling a lot of nostalgia, a lot of sadness, and it's normal. But one of the things that I recall her always cooking when I was young was mackerel patties. Now, we grew up very poor, and I'm going to just assume that mackerel must have been cheap back then, because it's not now, but my mom wouldn't have been buying something or feeding us something that was expensive. Now, we didn't have the mackerel patties very often, but I just remember when we did, I always loved them. And then prior to my daughter turning into a vegetarian, she also loved mackerel patties. It used to be one of her favorite things that I cooked. So traditionally it was made with the canned mackerel and of course crackers and eggs and seasoning. But I can't do the crackers, and I kind of wanted the mackerel patties, so I decided to go ahead and make them, but I'm going to substitute the pork panko instead of the crackers. And of course I don't put all the seasonings and things that she used to put into them. I just did plain Redmond salt, and I also didn't deep fry them in oil, which my mom used to do. I could have fried them in tallow or bacon grease, but I've packed up most of the stuff in my kitchen, and all I had was a little bit of bacon grease and the Blackstone. So I wanted to just get as many of them done, so I cooked them on the griddle in the Blackstone with just a little bit of bacon grease, but you'll see that in the video. I tripled the recipe. I do have the recipe that I used. It is on my website, which will be linked in the show notes down below. It is a single, for the single recipe, but I tripled mine, like I said, which is what you'll see in this video, since I eat it, my kids eat it, my husband eats it, and then he likes to take the leftovers of whatever we have the night before for work, so I wanted to make sure that he had some of that. I also will point out that you'll see me pulling the bones and everything out of the canned mackerel. If you mash it up really good and grind it up really good, you can actually eat the bones. I know, because I have inadvertently in the past, but my kids don't like that. So I take them out. I don't need to discourage, especially my youngest. He doesn't need any reason to not eat anything, because he's the pickiest person on the planet. So, but anyways, I just wanted to just do a brief introduction, kind of like the history behind the mackerel patty. This recipe is not my own. I do believe that it is, you know, used to be maybe adaptation of salmon patties. I don't know. This is how my mother made it when I was growing up. Only difference is, again, she used saltine crackers. I just always remember her pulling a sleeve out and just crushing them, and I don't know, just kind of memories. But I did, like I said, I put the recipe on my website or on my webpage, and I hope you enjoy the video, and, you know, try them, tweak it. We didn't normally add Parmesan cheese growing up to ours, and generally I don't do dairy very much, but Parmesan doesn't bother me. My husband just loves it in the meatballs, so I added the Parmesan, but you could leave that out. You don't have to, you know, you can use more seasonings, less seasonings. You can make sauces if that's what you like, but yeah, I encourage you to give them a try. But check out this video. Like I said, go to my website and check out the actual recipe if you need it, and thanks again for watching. Well, here are the just overall ingredients. I'm just using canned mackerel. I do go and drain all the water out in the sink just because you don't need that. I'm actually tripling this recipe, so it's going to be 3 cans of mackerel. It's 2 eggs per every can, so I'm going to end up adding 6 eggs in here. I am doing Parmesan cheese. You don't have to do that. I think it was 1/4 cup per can, and I just added a little extra, and then just some seasoning, and then I did 1/2 cup of panko per can as well. So right now I'm just draining all these cans. I'm going to go ahead and get them in the bowl, and you're going to see in a second that I actually start pulling the bones out of them. You can eat the bones in mackerel. I believe they're, what is it, pressure canned, so the bones are soft, but I have the pickiest eater on the planet, and he will eat these, but not if there's a bone in there. So while it would have been good for me and everybody else, I just decided to go ahead and remove them. And you guys, do you see Squirrel Kitty down there? She smells the mackerel. She's my old lady. I've had her for over 13 years. She pretty much is queen of the house. She can do whatever she wants. But she was peeking in there. You'll see her in a couple parts of the video because she definitely smells it and thinks that it is her canned food. Adding the eggs, and I mentioned earlier it is 2 eggs for every can of salmon, so I'm going to end up putting 6 eggs in here. And I look like I'm having a conversation with somebody in the kitchen, so in case you're wondering what I'm pointing to or whatnot, I'm just talking to my husband. I think I was asking him to crunch up the pork panko. I do oftentimes buy the pre-made pork panko, but there's no need for it because if you just get regular pork rinds, you can crunch them all up, make your own pork panko, much cheaper. So I just had picked up a couple small bags from my Walmart, and that's what I end up putting in there. This is just the Parmesan cheese, and like I said, it's about 1/4 cup per can. I put a little bit of extra in there. My husband likes the Parmesan cheese, and Parmesan doesn't really bother me at all. I did actually cut out most all of the dairy, but Parmesan's one of those ones that it just doesn't seem to affect me. So here's just the small bag of pork rinds that I got. My husband had been squishing it all up. And you guys notice Squirrel Kitty again over there in the background. She's like, this smells like my food. What's going on here? As for the pork rinds, you do need to be careful that you're getting the ones that are just fried pork rinds. I've seen some salt and pepper ones that have all kinds of crazy additives to them. So these are very clean, so I do like them. So I'm just going to mix these just, really well till everything's incorporated. I mix it with my hands. Yes, my hands are clean. It's just easier for me. Plus I can really get the feel of whether or not the mixture is too wet or too dry. This actually comes out pretty decent. I feel like it's just a real little bit too wet. So I do actually get my husband in a minute just to sprinkle just a little bit more pork panko into it. Crackers I think maybe absorb just a whole lot more than the pork panko would. And I only added a very small amount, and you don't have to do that if you don't mind, the mixture. You just want it to stick together. And actually, in retrospect, as I was putting these together, I probably could have just left it out because they did actually start to kind of crumble a little bit. But as the egg cooked on the Blackstone, everything held together just fine. But in the beginning, they were kind of falling apart. So, just kind of be mindful of that. And here I'm just going to put them on the Blackstone. And like I said, generally these can be fried in like bacon grease or tallow, but I wanted to get all of these done very quickly. I also had already packed my cast iron skillet, so I just was trying to make it work here. I do actually add a little bit of bacon grease. It was kind of a futile gesture because the griddle is actually not level, so it all kind of like moves to the front. But you can fry them or you can do them this way, whatever way works best for you. But yeah, this is just, it's this easy. It's this easy, this quick, and everybody seemed to really enjoy them. Well, there you go. I know it's not the most spectacular of recipe. I should be talking and walking everybody through it, but unfortunately I have such a busy house right now that all of the chaos going around, and you see the cats, they can smell the mackerel, so they're snooping, and it just was a little bit easier for me to do the voiceover. I do hope that when I get settled in my new house, it's a lot smaller kitchen, like just drastically smaller, but I do hope it'll be able to be a little bit better set up for me to be able to film, actual recipes, because I have a bunch of them that I've been trying out and I can't wait to share them. But anyways, I thank you again for watching. If you're a new subscriber, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. If you're an older subscriber that you've been with me from the start, thank you again for watching. I absolutely still, I'd say this every time, I adore all of your comments, suggestions, everything. Please keep them coming. I do, hope that if you haven't subscribed that you will. will. It helps me get this word out to other people that are just starting out on the carnivore diet, that maybe need some ideas or are kind of in the same position that I am. So absolutely, please do subscribe if you haven't. I thank you again for tuning in, and as always, I hope you eat your meat.